Ntungamo as some of those new circuits. I think it will decongest Mbara and other high courts. Was there a circuit in Bushenyi, Council Bwenje?
It is there now.
It's there now, but there wasn't.
No, no. It has been there for the last around 6 months.
6 months. Yes, so it's part of the new.
Yeah,
literally, you are right. UNEB released UPE 2023 results with a higher proportion of candidates passing in Division 3 compared to 2022, with more candidates in the division that is ungraded at 88,269 candidates. They failed these ones. Very unfortunate. But it also announced that more young pupils are not making it to PLE, are dropping out. The boys now are dropping out. Prior, we thought it was the girls that were dropping out, but it's now even the boys. Parliament yesterday raised concern over the surging cases of foot and mouth disease in the country. Now, Mbara, Kanzo, Churuhura, Sembabule, among others, are the districts that are affected. We belong to the Kato corridor, and I'm very sure that our pastoralists are battling foot and mouth disease. We pray that the Minister of Agriculture is able to intervene real quick and deal with that situation there. So that we can be able to enjoy our meals and of meat and everything that has to do with that. Now, Uganda concluded the non-aligned movement and the G77 plus China summits in Kampala, where 1,918 delegates were hosted from 129 countries, 16 presidents, 9 vice presidents, 16 prime ministers, among others, were hosted there. The International Court of Justice, a very important discussion we shall also be having this morning, where I find Christians very ridiculous in a way, where you have to support Israel even when you know it is perpetrating injustice, but because you think Israel is a chosen nation and everything that has to do with that. Peter Mpaka is here with us. He will be able to give us more of that information. But it's also important that we know our very own Justice Julius Sabitinde dissented in siding with Israel, but I read her judgment. It is more of a political question that cannot be settled by the International Court of Justice. So that is very interesting. We have a lawyer, about 3 of them are in the house, so we shall be able to talk about that. A city lawyer petitioned the Constitutional Court to declare Articles 113, 108, 119 inconsistent and contradict the Constitution in allowing appointment of members of Parliament into cabinet. So that is our topic of discussion this morning. We've already put it on our social media handles. Go to Twitter at X912 CROOZE FM is where we at, and Facebook 91.2 CROOZE FM. That's where you can be able to follow, like, and comment. The feedback is welcome. Later on in the show, we'll welcome the calls on 752-912-912 and 780-912-910. But before we go for a breather, I'm going to give the guest a minute or less to just say hello before we get into our topic of discussion. Good morning, Mr. Sim, and welcome to the Big Set.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wanyaji. I'm very happy to be here again, and I'm looking forward to having a very wonderful discussion. Nelson Asimwe, Vasheja, the chairperson of the NUP Kazo District, and soon to be a member of Parliament Kazo District, if my party decides that we should go for elections. Thank you.
All right, welcome. Peter Mpaka, good morning and welcome to the Big Set.
Yeah, good morning, West J, and good morning, our dear listeners. And of course, I can't go out without also sending greetings to the top management of CROOZE FM and appreciating them for always allowing us to be here to discuss issues of national importance. Maybe I will give one comment about the PLE results and congratulate our people, our children, for making us proud and performing well. But my special concern goes to 2 issues in the PLE. One is those that are ungraded. I really want to send out an inspiration message to them that though Mr. Museveni's UNEB has not graded you or has classified you as failures, for us here in the field,
This is a government institution that is charged with conducting exams, and it has nothing to do with Museveni.
You have, it means even UPDF. You know, UPDF is the one organization that recruits low caliber people, but it even means that them in the UPDF cannot receive them.
I know very smart individuals in the UPDF.
Yes, by experience. You know, wisdom can be obtained by observation. They can become smart by observation. But you understand this, that the world takes those who have qualified as doctors, those who have qualified as engineers, as the cream. Then those who have not done the best as security guards and police and so on. So I'm not abusing them. Don't take it as an insult. But that's how this UNEB has classified us. So for me, I want to inspire those who are ungraded. Please, this is not the end of the world. If you can repeat the exam, please do it. But still, you have a God-given talent within you. Please find opportunities to harness it. And then my second comment is to the conduct of there is a minister who disappointed me when the first lady was giving results. The woman was shaking. I think she's Honorable Kaduchu. She was
the minister
she was like shaking.
Education.
She was. So I'm wondering what kind of material is Janet made out of, that fellow ministers, they quake, they are shivering.
This is
even
Mama.
To stand beside
she's
her.
Mama of the nation.
A mama who has pretended over a ministry that is rotting. The education sector, I speak it without even compromise, that the education system in Uganda is rotting and needs resurrection. So for me, if today I became president of Uganda, I would immediately fire her, and I want to call upon President Museveni to fire her, because the policies that are being implemented one of the policies, by the way, under UCE and UPE is automatic promotion. Even when the class teacher comments that the student has not obtained the minimal comprehensive skills, just comprehensive, that the student cannot comprehend that 1 plus 1 equals 2. If you ask a student that 1 plus 1 equals 1, like they say in the Bible, the education system of Uganda says promoted to the next class. So if a minister is superintending over such a system, I really recommend her firing. Okay,
welcome to the show. Let's stop for a break. When we come back, I will hear Council Bwenje on the ICJ and Ndugu Asimwe Banjizi there. But we'll come back after a very short breather. Don't touch your radio. Welcome back from that very short, if at all I can call it a break. It's 27 minutes past 9 o'clock on Western Uganda's biggest radio station, 91.2 CROOZE FM. Great music, great friends. Good morning. My name is Wesige Banyaji. With me in studio is Asimwe Banjizi, Peter Mpaka, Nelson Asimwe, and Council Bwenje Deusdated. Council, welcome to the show.
Oh, well, the prayer is mine. I want to, of course, as a matter of fact, state that the High Court has not allowed our application as members of the National Revolution for the Restoration of Uganda to register ourselves as a political party. And we are still contemplating on the way forward, and as soon as we identify it, we are going to inform our members. But let's not.
What's their reason?
The reason is that it was better that we should have gone for appeal and not for judicial review. And so we are thinking about filing an appeal, if of course we're still in time. And if there's any development, we're also going to inform the same to our members. Then and of course it is also important that I express my condolences. I express my condolences to the millions of people who lost their beloved ones during the NRA Liberation War of 1981 to 1986. 1 million people died, and
the record is actually 500,000.
That is official, but of course, remember there's a distinction between official and reality. So every 26th of January of every year, of course, is a nightmare for those people. None of them have never received any reparations, any compensation. And of course, as a matter of fact also, I want to applaud the International Court of Justice for its very brave decision of yesterday. Although it is temporary, but it is worth it. It tries to provide an avenue where the state of Israel can be held accountable. And of course, I've also read the dissenting opinion of Honorable Justice Julius Sebutinde, but it is also very important that I state here that her decision is not a decision of the Republic of Uganda, because she's not there as a representative of the Republic of Uganda. So, as a judge, she has a right to hold a dissenting opinion as long as the opinion is a reasoned one. And I think I'm protected.
Yeah, let's allow it.
And of course, if you read that decision, there's nothing about the Bible. So there's nothing about the chosen people. So her decision is strictly legal. It has legal arguments. It has she's depending on many cases like the Gambia versus Myanmar, Ukraine versus the Russian Federation, and so forth. So her decision is not an emotional one. Her decision is well reasoned, although I disagree with it, but it is her right. She has a right to have her own opinion, distinct from the other 16 judges. And of course, I want to thank also the members of of our parliament, who have always stood up to the government of the day and checked its excesses, even though it is so hard. And I've also heard that our honorable Mr. Wat Update is also recovering. Of course, that is Segrinya. And I wish him well. And I also want to thank our honorable Zake for the struggle. Although, of course, I also think that the speaker was right to refuse to recognize the position of a deputy chief whip, because it does not exist in our rules of
welcome
procedure.
To the show, because I think there is something going on between you and Zaka that you have to give him all flowers.
No.
Saturday in, Saturday out.
There's nothing.
Welcome, Asima Bandizi.
Yeah, good morning, Westgate. Good morning, my fellow panelists, our dear listeners out there. 26 January is a special day in my life. It's the day when I met my wife. Way back in 2008, I was a student at campus, second year, she was in senior 5. So for me, it's always a double celebration for the last 16 years. And I want to, in a special way, appreciate the brave few Ugandans, 41 of them, that made the decision to liberate this country. Irrespective of the fact that maybe along the way there has been some disagreements here and there. That's normal. It's human nature. But we must give them credit for what they did in their youthfulness. Because when you look at the youth currently, what are they doing? What are they planning? What do they bring on table other than lamenting all the time government etuyambe? Instead of taking issues into their hands and they address whatever could be going wrong. So in a special way, allow me thank His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni Tubuhaburwa for the boldness that he had, and his team, all of them, even the ones that have fallen out with him, the likes of Mugisha Muntu, Dr. Chiza Besigye, Kazora, the list goes on, and the ones that passed on, the likes of Kashiringi, we must always give them credit because they did a good job. Some of us are lucky, blessed, the likes of Peter Mpaka, me, having big political ambitions and dreams because of the environment that they created. So big thanks to them, kudos to them. Welcome on board the big seat.
Let me go to Asimwe Nelson straight, maybe because I needed to hear what you thought about the judgment that was delivered by the International Court of Justice, where the majority of the bench sided with the Republic of South Africa in calling on Israel to stop war crimes and crimes against humanity. And we're only waiting for a judgment of whether indeed the acts of Israel amount to genocide. But having our very own Justice Julia Septin, the dissent, do you think there's really much the courts, especially at the international level, have to do? Because for them it's just to make a judgment. It's whether Israel will go ahead and implement some of the recommendations from this judgment. Do you think it is anything that the world should embrace and look forward to Israel implementing?
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Wanyaji. And yeah, I think I really thank the court for their decision, because to me what is happening in Gaza is really genocide, because people are just being massacred because of what they believe in. And Israel, I think, is just taking advantage of Gaza maybe being a very, very, very small, a small nation with very many people. And then, but you know, it's one thing to pass that judgment, and then it is another thing for Israel to implement it, because you see, the United States and Israel, there is a way how they do their things, and at times they fail to put into consideration the decisions that are made by those international bodies, simply because at times they are the ones funding them. At times they have the powers to veto such decisions, and so on and so forth. So I'm looking forward to seeing how Israel will implement that. But I really believe that it was a nice decision. Then on the issue of Septindi, I think, as Counsel Wenje said, you know, I'm not a lawyer, but I think as lawyers, it's not that the entire table of lawyers should agree on a decision. So I think they make their own judgments basing on the facts and what they see that it should be done.
Peter Mpaka on the ICJ judgment.
It's on record, Westj, that previously I've congratulated South Africa for taking that bold step against extremism. You see, for me, what I hate is extremism. I love
but there's
balance.
a lot of double standards. you've been here before a couple of times, exalting Israel and its actions.
And I'm going to.
And now, where is the extremism about Israel at this point when you've been supporting whatever that they're doing in the Gaza Strip?
You see, what Israel is doing is what President Museveni did in 2016 when he unleashed bombs onto the palace of the Rwenzururu kingdom. For us, ordinary Ugandans, we still think that there were better methods of neutralizing whatever elements were within the palace of the king without necessarily bombing it to ashes. And that is the same perspective I still have even with Israel. That there is a better way we can eliminate Hamas. Even God Almighty is on our side, rather than doing carpet bombing. You watch like Al Jazeera and you see like entire residentials, entire buildings flattened, and you see kids pulling kids from rubble. And for me, that is what pains me. I think Israel, one time they had a strategy of filling tunnels with water. Why are they not doing it to the maximum, and they flush out those Hamas people? They are saying that the Hamas is using human shields, is using the populace as a shield. Can't we still use the intelligence? Because Mossad, their intelligence organization, is one of the best in the world. I think the second after CIA. If they are able to go in Lebanon and kill some commanders, go in Iran and investigate and kill some...
What does the judgment out of the ICJ mean to the state of Israel and the entire global community?
For me, it's meaningless. Because Israel is still going to go and bomb and do carpet bombing. They are still going to... For me, I'm looking for... I'm also going to sound like Asima has said that I'm not a lawyer, but I would want Prime Minister Netanyahu to look at other strategies of eliminating Hamas. Or let them make a declaration and say from today we are annexing Gaza. People in Gaza go to Egypt or go to the West Bank. And then we first sort out this. Like they are creating buffer regions. I would support that. Okay. Let them create buffer zones instead of just we are wasting time in the ICJ. It is because even today they are bombing right now.
Okay, thank you. Asima Bandizi, on the element of the International Court of Justice making a ruling that sided with the Republic of South Africa, calling on Israel to stop whatever that they're doing in the Gaza Strip. How far do you think this will go? Will they go ahead and respect it, the judgment of that particular court? Because we saw Prime Minister Netanyahu yesterday came out and said, well, we know about the judgment that has been made in the ICJ, but we shall go ahead and protect the Israeli people, and the campaign in the Gaza will not stop because of the judgment from the ICJ. What do you think?
Thank you, Westgate, once again. And I literally, for once, I think all of us in the studio, we agree. As a legal scholar, an injustice to one is an injustice to all. And this is as a result of imperialism. If you look at how Israel was created, they wanted to bring those people to Uganda. And thank God, our leaders then, and us being primitive, the way whites tend to call us, we said no, we can't put up with these people. Globally, they had been rejected. And the Palestinians said, no, these are our brothers. We have a history. Let them come. We share whatever small land is there. Fast forward here, they are paying a price for errors that were made by the former colonial masters, the British, with the people they conspired with, the US. I watch Al Jazeera, I watch RT, and if you have a child, women, the way they are being massacred, at times it's hard to follow. There is even a time when I became so emotional and I went to the extremes. I tweeted. It's on record and I never deleted that tweet. Much as some people came to my inbox and attacked me, I said how I wish Hitler had exterminated all the Jews. But I realized not all Jews and Israelites are in support of what's going on in Gaza, West Bank. Actually, some of them have been carrying out weekly protests, echoing and emphasizing the fact that Israel can only be at peace if Palestinians are at peace. But the problem here, it's US and Britain. UK, it's that simple. If US decided to rein in right now, the issue of Gaza, Palestine and Israel, it's only a two-state solution that will work. I'm not a fan of extremism, but what the Hamas people did, they were right. Because they were pushed to the edge, and the only way they had to bring the whole world, the whole globe, to the attention of the suffering and the crisis that was ongoing is what they did on 7th October 2023. Nevertheless, the way Peter Mpaka has said, innocent children, innocent mothers, and you find America giving them weapons. You classify Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis as terrorist organizations, and you don't classify the Israel Defense Forces as a terrorist organization based on what they are doing. And in a special way, I'm proud of South Africans. I'm proud of Africans. Finally, we are playing a key role at the global stage. I was a little bit disappointed with Judge Sevutinde. Yeah, I respect her decision, but it's quite absurd. Of all people, with our history, with these imperialists, you side with them. What Russia is doing to Ukraine is wrong. Whatever happened way back then, it's wrong. Two wrongs can't make one right. We should not promote evil. So the problem is actually even the United Nations Security Council needs to be reformed. These five gangs, US, France, China, Russia, and Britain, they hold us at ransom. One nation having the power to veto the decision of all the other countries globally, even if all the others said yes. And currently, who is doing that? It's US. Because even the last vote they had on trying to advocate for a ceasefire, UK, it decided to be neutral. They didn't vote. But America vetoed it. If you look at the reasons they give this, we appreciate the fact that all countries have a right to self-defense. Then why shouldn't the Palestinians defend themselves? I give credit to the ICJ because the world was watching. It was a litmus test, by the way, for the ICJ to see if they would make the right decision. And finally, Banyaji,
Yes.
the way Peter has said, the ICJ, they are like barking dogs that can't bite. Their decision has been made, but it won't be implemented. Even as we are here right now on air, Israel is carrying out bracket bombardment of Gaza Strip, carrying out more arrests in West Bank, even innocent mothers. They just arrest at random. They don't observe any human rights, and you as a promoter of human rights, it's quite absurd.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Jay, I just want to wrap up with what my brother has said, that our sentiments here do not validate, especially mine, do not validate the attack by Hamas on October 7th.
Okay.
Because we must also, whereas we are condemning the extremism on the part of Israel, we must also condemn the extremists of these terrorists group like the Houthis, the Hezbollah, and Hamas.
Let me come to Council Bwenje. Something that I'm very interested in the judgment that was made in the ICJ. But maybe we interrogate why South Africa, with a couple of so many countries across the world. Why would it be the Republic of South Africa that would move to actually take Israel to the ICJ? Because President Cyril Ramaphosa, immediately after the first invasion of 7th October, and then the retaliation by Israel, the president of South Africa came out outrightly and sided with the people of Palestine and said they will not accept, they will not sit back and watch Israel destroy an entire nation because of what they think is right and it's theirs. What do you mean? What do you take of South Africa moving to, in fact, petition the ICJ on behalf of the entire universe, literally?
I think the major reason is that South Africa has had a history of apartheid. And it used to think that apartheid was an equivalent of genocide.
Yes.
So it seems to have a feeling of deja vu. It seems to have been there. It seems to have an idea of how it feels to be discriminated as a result of your race, as a result of your ethnic extraction, of your language, of your tribe, of your religion. And of course also torture and genocide are what we call jus cogens. There's no, I mean, it's a violation of a human right which every one of us has a duty to stop. So I think South Africa feels more aggrieved as a country which has a history of genocide, of course, in terms of apartheid. And they seem to have taken the mantle that if there's not going to be a state to challenge the human rights violations, then it should be the Republic of South Africa. And I think it is also born from the fact that Palestine is not a state. And that's why if you read the decision of the ICJ, it was the state of Palestine versus the people. I mean, the state of Israel versus the people of Palestine, yes. Not the state of Palestine. Because the two-state solution has not been possible. But of course, I have hope that in the near future it will be. But of course, I also thank the Republic of South Africa, although it has a considerable number of Jews, and which actually Jews were also involved in the fight against apartheid. But they have taken the firm decision that that it's not about Jewish and Arab. I think it's about the existence of a race, of an ethnic species, and as of course as a country which was under the National Communist Party since from 1910, then again in 1948, they have faced it rough. They know what it means not to stay in your own home, to be hunted because you are black, to be hunted because you don't speak Afrikaans. So I realize that of all countries, especially in Africa, maybe countries like Namibia, which also faced a genocide perpetrated by the Germans, of course Yugoslavia and so forth, South Africa of all nations has come up. I would have also wished that Uganda was the state to apply for those provisional measures, but of course, as you know, our state is not that kind of a state. It is more associated with the Jews than with the Arabs, and so it sees no point at all in trying to advocate for the rights of the Palestinians.
Do you really see the US, UK, France, and all these backers of Israel and Israel itself respecting the pronouncement from the ICJ?
The problem with international law is that it is not binding.
It's merely advisory.
Yeah, it's merely advisory. Decisions are almost made out of consent. Okay, I mean the jurisdiction of the ICJ is also not very straightforward because we do not have an international police. We do not have an international army to enforce these
Because
decisions.
I'm thinking, if at all the judgment is out, and then the next day Israel is going to be bombarding the next residential area in
and
Gaza,
I think now
then what relevance is the court in the first place?
That shows that the Honorable Justice 17 was right, and the other 16 judges were wrong, because even if you give a legal judgment, it will not be enforced. So it is better that the states go back to the negotiating table, and the Security Council, of course, with its might, tries to enforce those decisions. But for 17 judges to sit and give a judgment of the court when the judgment is going to be in vain, then I think it is better that we kind of apply the political question doctrine, that there are some decisions which are better suited to be handled by the other arms of government, parliament, executive, and so forth, but not for courts of law. But which, of course, I don't support.
Will be able to handle the crime, because this is not
something
over creation of 2023. This is a historical question.
Of course, this is what, if you read the dissenting opinion, the judge tries to dissect the history of the conflict, and that same dissection was not done by the other 17 judges. So she seems to have a deep understanding. Yes, she seems to have a deep understanding of the conflict, the probability of resolving it in the course of law, vis-a-vis in the political centers. And she also, I think, says that the use of the word genocide is kind of like it is not the best, because they are trying to use that word in order to fit within the jurisdiction of the court. Yet she has not seen any intent from the state of Israel to mete out genocide against the people of Palestine.
When you hear statements of the Minister of Defense of Israel categorically stating, even their army spokesperson saying, these human animals are going to pay the highest price. We are going to make sure that the Gaza Strip is restored to what it is supposed to be.
When you read her judgment, of course, she also says that some of those statements were not reflective of the policy of the state of Israel. They are just statements. Actually, they are isolated statements from individuals.
But if
whose opinions do not hold,
if the Prime Minister of Israel is able to say the Hamas and the Palestinians are involved in this and the attack on the October the 7th will pay the highest price, and they will have to regret this.
You see, genocide is not the same as homicide. And if you read the majority decision, they try to distinguish between the two. Genocide is when you violate the right of a human species to exist. But the homicide is when you violate the right to life of a single person. And
but this is no intention. The Palestinian people.
Of course, I understand. But
the line is very thin.
On a political note, it is easy to say that it is genocide. But in terms of law, the standard is so high. For you to kind of say that what Israel is doing is within the confines of the Geneva Convention Against Genocide, then you must have very strong evidence, and which South Africa doesn't have.
Okay, let me allow Nrm. Yes.
Thank you so much. You know, at times I get disappointed with the legal scholars. Honestly speaking, what is happening in Gaza, even someone who didn't go to school, if you explain to him or her the difference between genocide and homicide, he will tell you that what's taking place there is genocide. That's one. Two, I've been keenly following some of the top brains analysts globally. The majority in unison, even some from US, Europe, they agree what is happening there is a systematic cleansing of a particular race called the Palestinians. Take it or leave it, it's a bitter fact and pill for us to swallow. Even in US right now, the ratings of the sitting president, Joe Biden, are the lowest of any sitting president. Why? They are also saying this has to stop. Behind the scenes, whoever has been following keenly, even US right now is pushing Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to accept a two-state solution. Last week we saw the statement of the European Union. The majority of them are saying enough is enough. The only solution that can work is a two-state solution. It's that simple. Because you see, when someone is over-squeezed and pushed to the edge and they realize we no longer even have a reason to live, they will use extreme methods to survive. Okay, and as
let's stop for a break. We'll be right back. Good morning. Deal with it so that we able to do the business that we usually do. And with me in studio is Simwe Banjezi, Peter Mpaka, Council Bwenje, and Simwe Nelson, talking about the ICJ judgment in which our very own Julia Sabtinde dissented against the 16 others that kind of rebuked Israel and the supporters against the war crimes and what they think is on the edge of genocide in the Gaza. Couple of people, very many, in fact, victims, families displaced, buildings destroyed, and the lives of the Palestinians are nothing but in turmoil. But I want us to switch gears and talk about a very interesting topic. A city lawyer in Kampala eventually petitioned the Constitutional Court, in which he says it's not in the spirit of separation of powers to have a member of cabinet be appointed from members of parliament. And that's something that Kenya tried in the last Uhuru term, where President Uhuru purely appointed people out of the field of technocrats and experts rather than the politicians. Will this be the solution on the consolidated fund, having to have person draw allowances perhaps as a minister and salary as a member of parliament? Let me go straight to Asimwe Nelson on what you think about the move to have members of cabinet appointed outside parliament, because the law allows the president to appoint from parliament members of cabinet, ministers call it, and other ex-officials that eventually become members of parliament, ex-official members of parliament. Do you think it's the right move to do? We should have, a repeal of this and we have the president appoint from anywhere?
Before she can come in.
Yes.
From a legal perspective, I don't know if it is appropriate for us to discuss it because it is still in law. I mean, in the courts of law.
To think it's sub judice.
Sub judice. I think it might bias the judges of the constitutional court.
We are going to discuss the political question about it, not the legalese,
but not the substance of it.
Yes, we are not going to go into the merits of the matter before court.
Because you see, for the decision of the ICJ, we are talking about it because it is already done. But now to talk about a matter which is pending, it is more of to preempt the outcome of the decision.
Let's speak as the people of Uganda, as Asimwe Nelson.
Well, thank you so much, Banyaji, and a good thing I'm not going to go into the details and so on, so it won't be sub judice. But as a concerned Ugandan and as a politician, I think I will talk about it in that angle. First of all, I really agree with the concerned Ugandan who is a lawyer who went to court to petition this, because when you look at the principle of separation of powers, its intended purpose was that the three arms of government, that is the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature, should check one another, and they should be independent in a way that the decisions of one arm cannot be influenced by another arm. But you can look at how we are doing it in Uganda, whereby you find that someone is in the legislature, and then at the same time the person is in the executive. Yet we have that other thing that is called collective individual, or what? Collective responsibility. Collective responsibility abides on such on those people, in a way that once a decision has been taken in cabinet, then when it is now brought on the floor of parliament, because of collective responsibility, so someone who is a member of parliament and at the same time a minister in the cabinet that took that decision will have no any other option apart from agreeing with what was passed by cabinet. Number two, when you find that someone is a member of parliament and then a minister, I stand to be corrected whether they are only paid because they are only paid the salary that is paid to a minister, or they are paid both. They are paid
no.
both.
The law is you only draw one salary from the consolidated fund. So they get salaries as members of parliament, but only allowances as ministers. Yeah. But nevertheless, it's still
and you know
it's still like double payment.
And you know
it's still a double
you know
payment.
In Uganda, most especially under the NRM regime, allowances are even much higher than salaries.
That is correct.
So you may find, yes, you draw that money meant for a member of parliament, but then the allowances are much higher. So that is double payment, and I think it is really very disastrous and very dangerous to the side of us, the taxpayers. So I agree that if that decision may be as the lawyer has petitioned, if the court can do us a favor and say it should be that, then it will be a very, very great achievement on the side of us, the taxpayers, because these ones who are enjoying the money, and that's why people really are not doing what they are supposed to do, simply because they want those favors. So because they know when they, for example, speak the truth power, speak the truth, the appointing authority, then the appointing authority will not appoint them ministers. And that's why even people now look at elections as a do or die, because people are not only fighting for leadership positions, but they are also fighting for those other add-ons that come along with those leadership positions, because someone knows that if I'm now a member of parliament and I've been a cadre of the NRM, then it will be obvious for me to be appointed a minister. But if we that law is passed and we say yes, it is not correct for a member of parliament to be appointed a minister, then we shall see very many people who know, because in Uganda some people know that whether when President Museveni is still leading, I will be a minister. We have seen people who have been ministers for the last 38 years. They are just moved from one ministry to another. Even they are moved to ministries where they don't have any qualifications, but simply because it is now the system and that's the NRM way of doing things, they are there. So if we see this being passed, I think it will do us a favor as Ugandans and as taxpayers, because there won't be that much extravagance when it comes to the consolidated funds.
Okay, let me bring in Peter Mpaka here. Peter, the status quo is the law allows the president, upon being elected, to appoint members into cabinet who serve as ministers and ministers of state. But among the appointments that he makes is from parliament, where a very small percentage comes outside parliament as ex-officials. We now know the Attorney General, Senior Counsel Chiri Wachwanaka, is an ex-official. We know of now the party president for the Democratic Party, Norbert Mao, is an ex-official in parliament. Janet Kataha Museveni, having relinquished the position in Ruhama as member of parliament, is now an ex-official in parliament. Do you think it's now right that we move away from restricting the president from making the appointments in parliament, rather from outside, so that a person is not attached to both the executive and the legislature?
Thank you, WSJ, and thank you for this topic. WSJ, first of all, these two lawyers, banonya chakulia, they are just looking for what to eat, and they are likely to follow the precedent that has been set by lawyer Nrm Marking, who would sue the president because he thinks he doesn't have a driving permit, who would sue Bobi Wine because he thinks Bobi Wine doesn't have the PLE certificate or pass slip.
Public interest litigation.
Yes.
Interject.
Yeah.
See, people sue for all sorts of reasons, and I think it's unfair for one to say that if someone goes to court multiple times, then they become a busybody. No, I think they have genuine issues.
But
so if the president does not have a driving permit,
on the matter of Nrm Marking, Justice Sekan has made a very good pronouncement and called him out as a busybody.
You see, when the president of Uganda has no driving license, then I also have a right to actually ask, why is he driving? Because if he knocks me,
he's a lazy lawyer.
That is a genuine issue. Because the law is, if you don't have a driving license, you don't drive. And there's no exception.
How
there.
is it your business to interrogate whether the president has a driving
because
license
the constitution and the laws of Uganda are public property. I own them. I must protect them. Yes.
Okay, let's allow
because if you arrest me for driving without a permit and you let Museveni drive without one, then are we equal? Of course, we are not.
Okay.
And that is wrong.
So I will stick to my observation when you gave us the topic that these lawyers are becoming busybodies, and I'm very disappointed because among them is a very, very good lawyer that NUP was interested in to appoint as a replacement for Anthony Wameri, one of those good lawyers that I've seen presenting on TV, and they have very brilliant minds. So in a country where you have President Museveni, who owns 666 cars, you don't expect him not to appoint he has 666 cars. He has 49 gardeners, people who just work in his flowers. He has 14 bedroom attendants, something like that. And all of those people, chefs, I think he has 89. They said 89 chefs. So you do not expect such a person not to appoint extremists or to appoint cadres, because when you look at his cabinet, most of the people who occupy his cabinet are NRM cadres or people who have been spying the opposition on behalf of him. So in a country where you have a president who calls the opposition bogus, because yesterday in his 38th speech on the so-called self-liberation, because he was liberating himself and his family, he said he's going to expose the bogus opposition. So if a president has a courtesy to call an institution of parliament, an institution of government, because we have a whole office of the leader of opposition that is allocated budgets that are passed by parliament, and then the president is labeling them as bogus, then you do not expect him to do those, not to do those double appointments. In a country where you have misrule, where you have bad governance, where you have potholes in the heart of the city, where you have a rotten education system, a dying healthcare system, where hospitals are more sick than the sick patients that go there, you do not expect anything different, Mr. Banyaji and our dear listeners. So for me, I see these lawyers wasting time. They are wasting court's time, and I can assure you that this ruling, you said we do not preempt the ruling, we do not
petition.
We do not preempt the petition. I see it going nowhere. Yes, I see it. Nyo munsasire abampurikirize, munsasire nyo tindi judge kandi tindi munyamateka ningamba nko muhinji.
But you went to school. You went to school. Listen, you went to school. If the question is, do you think it is right that the president appoints within parliament? What is the problem with it? That one doesn't need you to be a lawyer.
You see, you preempted it. You said we are discussing.
No,
we are not concerned with the legalities.
Let me go to.
That's like a judge on that bench.
Yes.
Thank you, Banyaji, and our dear listeners. And actually, I think with the panelists, with his guidance and he's doing a good job, our moderator, we need to do justice to this topic because it concerns us all as Ugandans, irrespective of our party affiliations. Fast forward, we all know, I'm working under the presumption that the majority of Ugandans, especially who have gone to school, we know something about called the doctrine of separation of powers. And it's the one that gave birth to the three organs of government: the legislature, the executive, and judiciary. When you look at the four core roles or key roles of the legislature, the parliament, one is to legislate, two, representation, three, budget appropriations, and four, the most important one, oversight over the executive and the judiciary. So, when you say, as provided for under Article 113, Clause 1, Cabinet ministers shall be appointed by the President with approval of Parliament from among members of Parliament or persons qualified to be elected members of Parliament. Clause 2, the total number of cabinet ministers, this is very interesting, shall not exceed 21 except with the approval of Parliament. The genesis of us having a very big useless cabinet of about 83 ministers, it's because the body in charge of approval, they are the same people being appointed. There is a conflict of interest. So, under the doctrine of separation of powers, cabinet ministers should be appointed outside members of parliament. If we had such an arrangement, then the legislature would be reining in on the errors and some decisions that are made by cabinet. But now we have a scenario where you find the same members of cabinet are the ones in plenary with voting rights. But if the executive was in parliament pure as ex-officials, then it would make sense. That's the reason as to why, even when it comes to some of the corruption scandals, challenges we have here and there, because of that conflict of interest, we've seen it multiple times in plenary. He's a minister, she's an MP, so they must protect their own interest in cabinet at the expense of Ugandans. So, me, I don't care whether these two brilliant Ugandans, the brains that have decided to petition the Constitution Court, have personal interests. ultimately what they are advocating for will address something that was maybe an oversight to the framers of the 1995 Constitution. And we must support them and give them credit. And I would love to encourage all Ugandans, some of these ills or things that could have been sneaked into our Constitution, whether intentionally or knowingly or unknowingly, we need to rectify them through petitioning the Constitutional Court. So I would not agree with my brother Peter Mpaka. This is something that goes to the core of democracy. I know most of these things in Mpaka, we tend to follow our former colonial masters, how they do their administration and what they left here. But if
for example, now the Westminster method, where majority of ministers in the UK are members of parliament from the Conservatives, and perhaps that's what we borrowed. It's high time maybe we revamped it. We kind of created a detour of that because we could think of something that suits us exactly, that is not necessarily from the UK.
I'm giving this submission is because my brother Banjis here is demonstrating double standards, because we know that the Westminster is a democracy. You elect a leader and the leader goes and a new one comes in. When we come to that point we tell them, let's vote out Museveni,
Prime Ministers in the UK do not have term limits either.
But still they are able to vote, they are able to change, as long as even
voting does not happen here.
Voting doesn't happen here. We rig, we go for war.
And they are members of the opposition.
We go for war. My presidential candidate was shot at not once, not twice during the election.
Okay.
So what I want to point out is this, and I want the listener to learn this, to really understand this, that Uganda is a dictatorship. So President Museveni has got to look and appoint for people who are going to kind of patronize his dictatorship. That's why he will appoint Agnes Nandutu without even cross-examining her experience in management or leadership of departments, simply because Nandutu is a celebrity and she's able to garner votes when she goes to Bududa. He will appoint somebody like Kahindo Tafire, when we know him that he is a very good thief who steals stock farms and government land, simply because he knows Kahindo Tafire has some command somewhere in Mitoma. And that kind of system cannot be taken out. Yes.
Okay. I have not read any decision of court where Kahindo Tafire has been convicted. You see what there was a decision by Capital FM to revoke an announcement by one of the panelists calling Museveni corrupt. You see, now when come here and then he say so and so is a thief, yet there's no evidence of a court having convicted him of theft.
It's an
attack on his reputation.
Yes,
because I think the
best you can say calling out a leader with
sure.
such a statement
is not a leader.
Let's
just
not go defensive.
Any person.
Yes,
it's I think defamatory.
It's very defamatory.
And a person can sue you surely. So you can say that the person is known to maybe to take other people's property without their permission.
Please go yes, to the matter now. We may not necessarily go into the merits of the petition.
Of course, yes.
But what does this mean for our democracy? Isn't it high time that we have members of cabinet that are not members of parliament? Yeah,
sure. You see, this petition is a little bit unique because it is not challenging any provision of an act of parliament. Actually, what is in issue are the provisions of the Constitution itself,
yes,
which is the grand norm, the standard. So they are trying to say that some of the provisions of the Constitution are unconstitutional. Now, of course, there has always been a debate as to whether a constitutional court can declare a provision of the Constitution unconstitutional. So it is unconstitutional to what? Against what? But of course, where one provision of the Constitution conflicts with another one, then, and if the two of them cannot be harmonized, then one can be unconstitutional. So,
and that is the spirit upon which they're making
yes.
the petition.
So I think they are trying to demand too much of the Constitutional Court, but I also ask the Constitutional Court not to run away. It is its job under Article 137 of the Constitution to decide such a matter. Of course, there is already a precedent. There's a case of Mugisha Robert and Bwenje Deusdedit versus the AG. It's a constitutional petition number 19 of 2017. It was just decided last year. A constitutional court said, okay, because in that decision, we were challenging the appointment of Katumba Wamala as a minister, yet he was still serving an officer.
General.
Now, the constitutional court stated that General Katumba Wamala is a member of parliament. He's a UPDF MP, and as long as he's an MP, so if he's a UPDF MP, he's an MP. So under Article 113, he qualifies to be appointed a minister of what? Of the government of the Republic of Uganda. So when you read Article 113, it makes it is very succinct. It is very straightforward that if you are an MP, you qualify to be appointed a what?
A minister.
Now, as to whether a constitutional court can try to harmonize that with any other provision and render it unconstitutional, that is for the court. But it is. Can you pardon that? How can I say it again?
I would want him to help us understand, because he's a lawyer,
Yes.
the provision of the Constitution that provides for an MP
He has
to
read
be
it.
appointed as a minister.
He read it. It's 113, and this is what it states. I think if you can state it again, if you can.
You can read it.
Yes, we can.
At 113, it says that that cabinet ministers can be appointed from among members of parliament. Okay, so either you are an MP, a directly elected MP, and you are then appointed a minister. Okay, or even if you are not an MP, you can be appointed outside parliament, but you must have the same qualifications as an MP. Okay, so as we stand now, it is not unconstitutional for an MP to also act as a minister of the government of the Republic of Uganda.
Okay.
So I think that that the decision to of course to file the petition is in good faith, because I think Mugisha Muntu and Honorable Okomoroit, I think, had tried to file the same. But if I may follow examples of the United States, you cannot be both. In the UK, you can be both. But of course, it has its own advantages and disadvantages in terms of accountability and holding the executive accountable. But of course, also you are getting a salary as an MP and then an allowance as a minister. And also, if you're in parliament, your ability to question the actions of the executive is very restricted, because you're also part of the of the executive. So it is hard to kind of demand accountability from you.
Okay, let's go to the
because
callers.
You are one and the same person.
To the lifeline of the show, the telephone calls on 752-912-912 and 780-912-910. Do you think the president should only appoint members of the cabinet from parliament, or the president should indeed move away from this and appoint members of cabinet from other spaces rather than members of parliament? The big seat.
Big seat.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Mbona Nwamanya Lawrence kurgaho mu rugara mashiruka shema. Nyeshinko reba program ejo. Museveni tasiba kuba nayirondera kubanga cabinet ni yakubene jeza ke confirmingira nankeje yayo.
Alright. On 0752912912178091291291. Let's get to hear from you on what you think.
Our music.
The big said.
Hello.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, CROOZE FM.
Yes, how are you? What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm good that is Arnold here in Kakowa.
Yes, that is chilling.
And now I want to talk about the schools. You see, studying in Uganda, the education corrupt. You can see the schools of such schools like Mbara High School, Ngano High School, they are dying because of this government.
On 07529129121780912910. The big said.
Hello, Ryan.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, Madilu Hima.
Yes, Madilu ni aje.
Poa sana, niko mzima. Nashukuru sana kwa hiyo debate. President kuchukua mtu minister kutoka nje, anakuwa anajua huyo anaweza akafanya ile kazi ambapo atapewa. Sababu wengine watakuwa wamechukuliwa ni wageni ndani ya parliament na hawawezi kufanya ile mradi ya serikali. Jambo la pili, Ukraine na Russia wakipigana, nchi mingi sana ilisema wa stop, lakini mpaka sasa hivi watu wanapigana. Haya, sasa hakuna kitu kinafanyika pale, watu wamekufa mpaka sijui watu gani watakuwa huko. Haya, kwenda Israel. Israel nayo inapigana na Gaza hapo. Hata mimi niliona jana kwa TV nikaanza kutoa machozi peke yangu, lakini sikuambia mtu. Kweli innocent wanakufa. Na Israel haiwezi kuambiwa stop. Hiyo ni vita ilianza miaka nenda miaka rudi banyanji. Kiswahili unaelewa kabisa vizuri, mimi najua wewe ndio
unakuelewa vizuri sana.
Sasa katika government zote sina president akipata cheo lazima anakuwa na mambo yake ndani ya government ya state, na uwezi kumlaumu kwa nini umechukua ule mtu kutoka nje kukuja kwa parliament kuongoza. Hiyo ndio yangu Banyanji. Mimi niko mzima.
Asante kuzungumza na sisi bwana Madilo.
Karibu.
Haya. We're stopping for a break. When we come back into a topic of discussion, don't touch your radio. Good morning.
It's bold. It's The Big Seat on 91.2 CROOZE FM. Great music.
Great music.
Great friends.
Great friends.
Everything is now said and all is well. Thank you so much. But thank you so much for enduring the kind of glitches that we've had ever since we started the show. But nevertheless, it's beautiful here on Plot 12, Muti Lane. The Big City is on air and online on www.cruisefm.com/stream and on Cruise TV. That's on YouTube and TikTok. You can go right there. Just type in on YouTube, Cruise TV. You'll be able to stream live. My name is Wesige Banyaji. The Big City happens every Saturday morning from 9 a.m. to 11, where we talk about literally everything. But this morning we talked about the judgment out of the International Court of Justice that was made in the case of the Republic of South Africa versus Israel. The majority of the bench sided with the applicant there, and we hope that Israel and those that support are able to, respect the judgment and just make sure that the Gaza Strip is full of peace. We've talked about the petition that was made by one of the lawyers in the Constitutional Court to make interpretation of whether his provision of the Constitution is not in violation of the spirit of separation of powers. But how about we leave without talking on about the 38 years of NRM? Yesterday was a celebration of the 38 years. We couldn't live here without getting to talk about this. Asimwe Banjisi, NRA came to power. It's now 38 years. Those that were born in January of 1986 are now married people with children, and some of them, lucky enough, can have grandchildren. And Ugandans, the lamentations are on, but the celebration of the peace and tranquility is also very loud and clear. Walk us through the journey. What should we expect in the next about how many years up to 2026 perhaps?
Thank you so much once again, Banyaji and our dear listeners and my fellow panelists for doing justice to the two topics that we've gone through. I always say it, let's always give credit where it's due and let's always critique objectively. So today, my submission, much as I'm NRM through and through, it will be a double-edged sword. I'll first talk about the big achievements we've made under the mighty great leadership of one of the greatest statesmen that we've ever had as a country, as Africa, and even globally. His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni Tubuhaburwa, and in a special way allow me to congratulate him upon these two milestone achievements of him being the double chair for Nrm Non-Aligned Movement and the G77 plus China. It's no mean feat. That's a vote of confidence in his leadership abilities. That's a vote of confidence in him being a peacemaker in the East and Central Africa region and Africa at large and globally, because we've seen him make great submissions in the UN and being given standing ovations and not being scared of telling the imperialists and putting them in their position, always advocating for the well-being of the developing countries. In a special way, I also want to congratulate my friend, our ambassador to the UN, Ambassador Adonia Ayevare, because currently he's the one coordinating all the diplomats of the non-aligned movement and the G77 plus China. Congratulations, and it's a job well done to our leadership, the leadership of this country. Fast forward, when you look at the history of this country, from the time we got independence, those turbulent times that we went through as a country up to about 1980, when these gentlemen decided and said enough was enough, an election was rigged, and they took up arms. Interestingly, when you look at the courage and the boldness, the determination, the patriotism that they had in their youthfulness of being just a mere 41 with only 27 guns, and they said enough is enough, let's go and liberate our country. So we must give credit to His Excellence and his team, even the ones that have fallen off along the way. We must appreciate the role that they played, the likes of Dr. Chiza Besigye, General Mugisha Muntu, our Major Kazora from Hiambara District, Kashari. The list goes on and on. And the ones that have passed on, may the good Lord judge them mercifully. We are on air because of their sweat and blood. We know regimes that we could not have this kind of opportunity to be on air critiquing. So that's one of the achievements. By the time NRA took over power, NRM back to multi-party dispensation in 2006, the status of our roads, if you look at the achievements we've done in regards to infrastructure development, the number of dams that we now have, the hospitals that have been built, the number of new schools, when you look at the seed schools, the roads, the extension of piped water, you must give credit to a gentleman called Dr. Engineer Silva Mugisha for a job well done, and I thank His Excellence for having reappointed him, because we must promote performance over mediocrity. Look at the security. Our territorial integrity is intact, irrespective of these small issues here and there because of the likes of ADF. But Uganda is a peaceful country where people can move from border to border, irrespective of the day, of the time of the day or night, transact business. Yeah. At the health sector, I know we might have challenges with stocking drugs, having enough medical practitioners, having challenges of unemployment, but some of these are partially global phenomena that are not isolated to Uganda. Like when you talk about unemployment after post-COVID, it has been a global challenge, and actually our economy has been robust post-COVID. Currently, we have a surplus trade with the European Union. We have a surplus trade with COMESA, much as we still have issues to address.
What you're literally saying, we are exporting more than we importing.
Yeah, I'm being specific. We have deficit when it comes.
No, I mean to those particular partners.
Yeah,
okay.
To those particular partners.
Thank you.
So
yes.
We must. And finally, Banyaji, allow me to say this. I watched the president's speech on the eve of the Liberation Day, the State of the Nation address. Corruption, it's high time he held the bull by its horns. Because if we Ugandans lament and our leaders lament, then who will address this cancer that is systematically killing all government institutions and establishments? So it's high time we walk to the talk. Okay. We have very good anti-corruption laws. Several different government agencies in charge of fighting corruption and embezzlement of government funds, like the State Anti-Corruption Unit.
Okay, thank you, Bandizi.
Yeah,
I want to, of course, start off from the fact that you cannot assess the performance of somebody if you don't have the key performance indicators or yardsticks. So if you're going to assess the performance of the NRM in the last 38 years,
you have them, because their KPIs are clearly within their manifesto.
Exactly.
And they've been offering the same ever since
not
1986.
The manifesto per se, but I want to state those 10 points on which basis they removed the government of the day then. That was the UPC. And so
they actually did not remove the UPC. They actually removed the military establishment of General Tito Okello.
No, it was the same thing.
It was never the same thing. Otherwise,
there were, you see, Tito Okello and his friends were all part of the UPC.
Okay.
If you read the,
please.
So I want to start off. But of course, I think before I state them, the 10 of them, I want also to mention that out of 100%, because Uganda is still a third world country, because even America, which is in the first world, cannot score 80%. So the most that Uganda can score is 25%. Because we are still a third world country. We are one of the
just like the majority,
countries.
just like the majority in the sub-Saharan Africa.
Yes,
third world,
yes. So the performance, of course, the first one was democracy. We are not a democratic state. We are a dictatorship where decisions are made by one person, and that is the president of the republic. He overshadows the parliament and of course the other.
But the constitution gives this gentleman, whoever it is, the power to do whatever that he does as president.
Give him the power to abuse his powers. Okay, he has the duty to respect the provisions of the constitution, but not once, not twice, we have seen him extend his long hand to even the third arm of government, that is the judiciary. He has even stifled the implementation of decisions of the Parliament of the Republic of Uganda. So he's a master at abusing his own powers. So for democracy, where you don't have a free and fair election, where there's rigging, where people don't vote, where the army is always stationed at the polling stations, harassing and intimidating voters. You don't have any functioning institution of the government. The Electoral Commission, the office of the Auditor General's government. I mean, it is all a mess. All institutions of government are all a mess.
Yes.
You don't really see any decisions made by people who are supposed to make them. So for number one, out of 10, I give the NRM government 0.5 for democracy. Then 2 on security. We don't know who killed Sobi. We don't know who killed the residents in that palace. It is all hazy. We don't have a comprehensive report. We don't know who has killed the sheikhs. We don't know who killed people on November 18th and 19th of 2020. We don't have accountability. So the people's lives and properties are insecure. So for that matter, I give the NRM 0.4%. Actually, it's 0.4 out of 10.
Yes.
Then the third, consolidation of national unity and elimination of all forms of sectarianism. We received the report.
This is typical Council Boyd.
Yes, we received the report. We received the report from the Equal Opportunities Commission that almost all offices in the government are occupied by Westerners. That is sectarianism, of course, nepotism and tribalism.
I think you're going to
so of course national unity. For national unity, Karamoja is still very far behind. Karamoja is still very far behind from Ankole. It's as if it's not. It is not a part of Uganda. So for that one of consolidation of national unity and elimination of all forms of sectarianism, I give the NRM 0.2 out of 10. And then number 4, defending and consolidating national independence. We are not an independent state. We are dependent. We are dependent on the foreign donors. We do not make independent decisions as a state, as a public. So what on the part of number 4 on the defending and consolidating national independence, I give the NRM 0.1 out of 10. So building an independent, integrated and self-sustaining national economy. We are a heavily indebted state. We are so much indebted to China. We cannot sustain ourselves. Our revenue collection is so low. I give the NRM 0.4 still out of 10. Then 6, restoration and improvement of social services and the rehabilitation of the war-ravaged areas. 60% of people who enter P1 do not go to P7, and if they go to P7, they don't leave P7. So on that issue, of course, there are no drugs, there are no doctors, and everything is a mess. So I give the NRM government 0.2 out of 10. 7, a nation of corruption and misuse of power. Now, for that one,
Please
I give the NRM 0.01 out of 10. Then number 8, redressing errors that have resulted in the dislocation of sections of the population and improvement of others.
Council.
Nothing. This is just 1, actually. It's 1 out of 10. Number 9, cooperation with other African countries in defending human and democratic rights of our brothers in other parts of Africa. We are still tortured by the state. There's no peace. People don't know where their loved ones are, and for that matter, I give the state 0.1 out of 10. Number 10, following an economic strategy of a mixed economy. Now here, I'm going to give the NRM government 2 out of 10. Now that makes a total of 5%. 5%. As yes, of course, it's 5%, and of course. Let's not forget that we are still a third world country.
Thank you, Peter.
Our people still go home to bed. They go to bed when they haven't had a single meal, and you cannot have that in the 21st century. So there's need for more.
Thank you, Peter Mpaka, NRM 38.
Yeah, thank you so much. I don't know what I can say, but I think Bwenje has done a clarion call on what I would have said. But of course, maybe 1 or 2 comments. Number 1, we are not on air because of the NRM. 38 years of the NRM. I'm just only 2 months and 3 days older than the NRM.
I can tell you, were on air because of the NRM. Let me give you the reason.
Yes.
There are still countries in the world where the media industry is not open space, where there is state-owned broadcast only, and you just cannot walk into a state-owned radio station and simply shame government. So by the NRM opening space and allowing private players to own radio station, it is on that opportunity that you're able to present your views to the population.
And are we proud? Are we proud of those countries? Do we enlist them among the first-class countries, or even the second-class countries, or even the third class? So I'm not on air because of NRM. I'm on air because of the national issues of national importance.
But I can also tell you, during General Idi Amin's regime,
yes,
I doubt very many members of the opposition would freely speak their opinions on air like this. They were in Nairobi, and all of the majority were in exile. That you should know.
Yes, and I can also tell you that there are narratives that actually
that we know. Excuse me, Article 20 of our Constitution provides that human rights are inherent. We are born with them. There's no state which gives rights.
Yes.
After all, none of us sent the NRM there. They went there for their own selves, and they cannot hold us at ransom.
Yes.
If I'm immunized, it's not because of NRM. If I'm here, it's not because of NRM. It's because I'm entitled to be here by birth.
In a second, I want to bring in.
But in a second or in a minute. One, I want to say that in 38 years of NRM, we have a minister who was telling us to smile at the delegates. But I want to thank Ugandans, mwebale nnyo obutabisinika. And the minister even had the courtesy of coming to say thank you, Ugandans, for smiling at the delegates. Kati, those delegates of NAM who used 760 billion shillings. And many parents are going to be gnashing because they don't have school fees. I think it is something that we should not celebrate about. NRM at 37 years, we have a cabinet minister grabbing government land. It's the stock farm. I already mentioned the name in the names of General Kahindo Tafire from Mitoma. Grabbing or stealing government land, arresting the manager, a breastfeeding mother, stopping the mother from breastfeeding the child. At 38 years of the NRM. At 37 years of the at 38 years of the, I already mentioned it, we have ministers quaking before the first lady. We have ministers stealing iron sheets. We have all these kind of atrocities being meted. We have missing persons. For me, I don't think we have a debt, 97 trillion debt which is almost times 2 our own budget, and
Okay,
every
thank
Ugandan is indebted about 2 point something million. Wesley, I want to conclude by saying this, that we have ardent listeners who are listening in, and I would like to send them greetings. One is Honesty Kangume, who is in DRC Congo, in Goma. Thank you so much for always being on the radio. And Mujuni Alex from Nyachitunda in Mukatindo, Isinjiro. And the chairman of the area called Indundu, Mwebare Munonga Okuguma, CROOZE FM.
Nelson Asimo.
Yeah, thank you so much, Banyaji. Maybe before I go to the topic, and I just have a simple question to my namesake Kasimu and the Council Wenje. Someone who steals matoke, how do you call that person? My namesake.
He's a suspect.
He's a thief.
No. He's a suspect.
He's a thief. Then
Yes.
someone who steals Karamoja iron sheets is called one.
If convicted by court,
Is a thief. Thank you very much. So we should stop this system of massaging corrupt thieves by calling them corrupt, and then we wait for conviction. Someone who says that Mavati just flew in tree, and then we wait for him or her to be convicted. So they are thieves, and we should call them by their names. Back to the 38 years of NRM. So I will call them the 38 years of mourning, because one of the reasons people are talking of roads, hospitals, the reason as why the NRM rebels picked guns and went to Ruero to kill almost 500,000 people was not because there were no schools. It was not because there were no roads. It was because an election had been rigged, and of which their leader was among the people who organized that election, that they claimed that it was rigged, because the election was organized by the military council, and he was the vice chairperson of the military council. And then after that, he went to the bush, jumped over 500,000 dead bodies to come and capture power. So we are mourning in a way that after 38 full years of the NRM regime in power, we are seeing very many people in Uganda who are languishing because of poverty. We have over 10 million Ugandans who cannot afford 3 meals a day. Even in the case of where I come from, what we call maybe a first district, we still have people in a first district who are spending sleepless nights because they don't have what to eat.
Thank you. A second, please, to just conclude. That time is fast spent.
Okay. Why conclude?
Yes.
So okay. So
thank you, Nelson Asimwe. Thank you, Kansabwede Dosdidi. Thank you, Peter Mpaka. Thank you, Asimo Banjis. I want to appreciate Arinda Allen, Ivan Pavlov, Aaron Mwesije, for contributing on our social media handles. And you're saying you are at Ivanda University. Aaron, thank you. I want to appreciate Matthias Major there for listening to the show. Bwenje, Hilary, Amanya, thank you. Jack Stims, Owakavi, Jonan, Steve Biargaba. And there is a lady in Makan Singh who never turns off CROOZE FM, Anita. And those that are setting issues there, I want to thank you, Anita, for always listening to the big seed. And there's so many. There's another one called Reagan. They never turn down their radios. Everyone who has been a part of the show, I want to appreciate you. Let's meet next weekend on the big seed. My name is Wesley Banyaji. Good morning.
The views expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of this radio station or its management.
This radio is regulated by Uganda Communications Commission, UCC.
Next.